I have Sam Adonis with me right now. You may know him from his work in Mexico, indies around the United States, but you're making your MLW debut this weekend as we're recording. It's about 3 days out. MLW Fightland, Philadelphia. How you doing today?
I'm doing really good, man. I'm actually quite excited for this coming Sunday, the 30th of October, because like you said, I will be debuting for MLW. MLW is actually a place I've been in contact with for probably the last 4 or 5 years about trying to come in for certain dates, and nothing was ever able to work itself out. I've been primarily obligated to Mexico for the better part of 6 years, and Conan is actually a big part of behind the scenes at MLW. He's also the main booker and the main producer at AAA, and he kind of bartered a special deal for me, and now everything the stars have aligned, if you will. So I'm very much looking forward to this opportunity, and more than anything, I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to show the American fans that aren't really aware of me what I'm all about. I think I have a bit more of a reputation. It's there's Corey Graves' brother, the guy that wrestles in Mexico, and it kind of has followed me so long, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to kind of break that preconceived notion, whatever it may be.
I don't think I knew that you were Corey's brother. Never heard that.
Really? That's fantastic. I'm sitting here excited about that because I hear that everywhere. I
Yeah,
meet
yeah,
and
yeah.
greets all over the place. People they say to me, they're almost like, "Oh, hey, I know who your brother is," and I'm like, "Oh,
You're
cool.
like, yeah, so
That's
do
good
I.
for you." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been in a way a dark cloud above my career, because it's I feel like if I was not related to somebody that was active on the WWE roster, or somebody so tied into the mainstream wrestling public, I think I would probably be seen in a different light, and almost be respected a little bit more for my own personal accolades.
Mhm.
Because through the grapevine, in the big system in the WWE, and around the American wrestling world, it's, oh yeah, yeah, Graves has a brother in Mexico. Everybody knows of what I'm doing. They've heard of what I've done, but very few people actually take the time to sit down and enjoy my body of work. Whereas if you were to just look at my personal career, 4 years with All Star Wrestling in the UK, 2 years with CMLL, four tours of All Japan, and a year and a half with AAA, all without a contract anywhere. That's pretty impressive. Guys
Mhm.
don't get those opportunities, and I think I can be very quite very well respected by some veterans, and the ones that are in the know. But to actually get some of the wrestling fans that might be conditioned to tune in into whatever they see on the internet or whatever is cool at the time, they might not be banging down the door to find Sam Adonis matches.
Mhm. Yeah, I say that in jest. I think you joked about it too. It's like now you're, or maybe he did too, but you joke about now you're Carmella's brother-in-law. So
Yeah, right, right, right.
it kind of
I,
changed a little bit, but I am familiar with your work. Like I'm trying to. I think it was about 2 years ago we talked. We were doing the Heroes of Lucha Libre show.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's when that came out on Crackle.
mhm. And I know the pandemic kind of stalled that, but it was funny when I was doing research for this. I was checking up on that show. Our interview's still up on that homepage, so it's
Oh wow.
it's kind of funny.
It
Uh,
is. It's quite funny. I kind of look at myself as one of these guys that's the term journeyman kind of gets thrown around a little bit too loosely these days because it is independent wrestling, and there's so many different places to go. But I've always taken pride in the fact that my career probably would have paralleled those of guys in the 80s and 90s. I really have been a
mhm,
journeyman, and I've almost to the point of flaw. It's almost been a detriment to me that I've been so mobile, and I've never sunk my teeth into one area. I sometimes ask myself, maybe 10 years ago, if I would have, just tried to get over on the American Indies, where would I be today?
Mhm.
Whereas, I've done a lot of the international wrestling, and I have, respect from the right people, and I've done it, in my opinion, what's considered the right way. But then when you see people that are literally just, they are wrestling for 6 months and they get over the right promotion at the right time and they're on the internet at the right time, did I do it right or did I do it wrong?
Mhm.
So I don't know. I battle with that every once in a while.
Uh, the your answer just kind of made me think of something else you said when we last talked. You called yourself a throwback wrestler. So in that same respect, is it, throwback journeyman? Do those things sort of run parallel, or is it a different view as far as, the style you wrestle versus where you work?
I think it more or less comes down to just general philosophy. Just the fact that I grew up in the wrestling business, and granted, this is small town Pittsburgh independence in the early 2000s. I was by no means running around backstage in the major arenas, but when you're conditioned to be around this stuff at a young age, it's no different than if your parents owned a bakery. By the time you're 5 or 6, you might be able to bake a damn good donut. I was around it, and what I loved about wrestling was from a bygone era. And I've always been one to kind of go with you hear certain wrestlers preach, and podcasters, and everybody says do it this way. This is the right way. I've done it the hard way. I've done it the right way. I've been very selfless, and I say that about heels in general. The best heels are selfless. Your job is to piss people off, get people angry. You don't want to get them pissed off and then get them to buy your T-shirt afterwards. You want them to spend their money to see you get your butt kicked. And I think my general interpretation of what the wrestling business was and what I wish it was is so different to what it is to so many people.
Mhm.
I think that's almost why you can consider me a throwback. And I'm proud of the fact that I can sit down in a at a coffee shop with some of the biggest names in history, and and they will be able to say, "Man, this kid Sam knows his shit. He's a good one."
Mhm.
Whereas those same guys may look at other guys on TV and say, "What? This guy doesn't know what he's doing." It's six in one, half dozen in the other. It's like if compliments paid the bills, I'd have been a rich man years ago. But at the same time, it's just I still truly believe the road less traveled leads to the greatest rewards. And it might be taking longer, but now with situations like this MLW coming up, the rest of the world will be able to see me, and it might not, I might not have been flavor of the week that just got thrown in MLW, but I think my opportunity will stand out a little bit better because I'm a more a well-rounded product. I've
Mhm.
put the work in. It's almost like a finished philosophy. It's like when American Idol finally came to the USA. It had been on TV in England for years. You know, I kind of look like that's something that I have going in my favor, and it does come back to being a bit of a throwback or just having an old school mentality, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with you as far as, the heel doing their job. I think it's almost a lost art in some ways. Like there's a lot of guys that have a t-shirt that I'm like, why are you selling that? Like you don't want the fan to like you, but merchandise takes over. So,
Well,
I'm
here
not.
and this goes like this is just my personal views, and it's this it's almost like certain aspects of wrestling are so beyond what I'm used to. Um, when I was a kid, my dad used to hate when wrestlers would sell merchandise. He would hate it. He didn't want. He says, "You're not selling your own merchandise. Bring your wife, bring your girlfriend, bring your kid. Whoever's selling your merchandise, you're selling it." Because to a child that's coming to see that independent show, you're a star. It kind of takes away the allure when the star that you're paying money to watch is out there asking you for $25 for a t-shirt. And that's kind of been my philosophy. I don't really like I do the meet and greets. I have no problem meeting fans and love getting pictures, love meeting everybody. But I just can't stand the concept of having to try to push merchandise because to me, if I'm really doing my job well, the guy I'm wrestling is selling more merchandise, and he's kicking ass. but B, I still think there's a little bit of that allure to it.
Mhm.
You just kind of keep that distance. And I think, people are so focused on today's dollar, today's, oh, I need to make the extra merch money today, that, they almost kill their star power or appeal. And they may, long term might not have the star value that they could potentially have.
Mhm. You kind of talked about it already as far as like Conan really getting the ball rolling, but uh you're known for your work in Mexico, but I know you still do indies. I've seen you on WrestleRex in Pittsburgh, Warrior in Chicago, and MCW were a few of the recent ones I've seen you on. But what, I mean, can you break it down as far as like what this balance is between working with AAA and MLW?
It's there's really no set agreement as far as what's necessary, but AAA TV, they're always busting out maybe 2 to 3 TV tapings per month. And the fact that I'm living in the United States, I'm not on all of them. Usually,
Mhm.
I usually come in for a lot of the bigger shows, or some outside tours or whatever like that. It all just kind of, it's basically a gentleman's agreement. We both know, they're very aware of what my expectations are, and I'm very aware of what theirs are as well. And we were able to meet in the middle, which I'm really looking forward to. Again, it's invaluable having someone like Conan, in that position, because clearly it's almost going to be beyond my pay grade. They're going to be able to say, whenever if there is a conflict in date, I don't think it's ever going to come down to asking me. I think it'll just be, the bosses discussing amongst themselves, hey, who needs
Mhm.
Sam more? Which is ultimately, as a wrestler, the position you want to be in.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm really excited about. Mexico has been great to me. It's a whole different world down there. It's a little bit more my pace as far as a villain goes.
Mhm.
They really like it's more mainstream. It's more for the public. It's not necessarily for your modern wrestling fan that's on the internet all the time. MLW does have that internet connection. There's so much talent in MLW. You have Hammerstone and Jacob Fatu, who are two of the guys that I cannot wait to wrestle with on high profile events. These guys have so much talent, but then I look at MLW almost kind of in the same vein as what ECW was in the late '90s. Is almost like a pit stop in between WWF and WCW.
Mhm.
You'd never know who's going to be rolling through the doors, and at the end of the day, the talent is there. Everybody is just they're world class, and just to be there right now, and you just even look at like AEW. How many guys on AEW are only on AEW because of their success in MLW? I think it's really cool. I think they're very self-aware of what they are. I think they're very, everybody, from what I'm gathering, again, I'm still just the new guy, but everybody seems to be on the same page to know that this is, hey, let's just rock and roll while we can. Whoever we can while we can, we're gonna do the best matches we can. We're gonna give you killer events, great production, great, you know, TV quality matches, but at the same time, it's not a full time touring company. It all depends on what we get out of it. So I think there's so many options. I'm really looking forward to it. There's so many AAA wrestlers that are committed to MLW as well.
Mhm.
That's kind of it's weird when people ask me. It's kind of how I feel in a way. I kind of see myself more as a luchador than I do as an American independent wrestler, because
Mhm.
that's been my primary source of income for the longest time. But if I know that me and, let's say, for example, Aramis or Ares, we could have a match in Mexico City, and that match is going to be for a different crowd on a different day of the week, and it's going to be just a completely different match because it's a different market. The same talent in the confines of MLW with a little bit more of an intelligent audience, let's say the South Philadelphia crowd, the ones that are, that have read the Observer for years, and the ones that did tape trade, clearly our match is going to be different. And
Mhm.
I think that gives all of us a little extra depth, and and something that I personally look forward to, and I can't wait to be able to show the American wrestling fans then I'm more than just your, punch and kick, yay boo, bad guy from Mexico.
On that note, is there a match that you would maybe pick from whether it's the past year or two that, maybe you feel best represents your work as a wrestler in Mexico? That, if they wanted to look at something before Sunday night, like here's a match that you would show them?
I don't know about let me think, in Mexico.
Or on the indies, but you're
I,
talking
I
about.
was, there's a match from Warrior Wrestling in September of 2020, I believe. It's myself and Jay White from New Japan.
Okay.
That's one of my matches. That's at Warrior. It was very. I'm so proud of Warrior. I loved working there. I love still working for them because it's one of the only places where I've gone where I've been there since day one, and I was able to progress organically. And through no fault of my own, I ended up kind of turning babyface. I was just old faithful. I was batting 300 and just going out there every show and doing what was asked, doing what was asked. And after a certain amount of time, the fans, whether they like you or hate you, they start to realize, you know what, that guy's consistent. I like that guy, and they can't put their finger on it, but it starts to grow. Next thing you know, I was wrestling Matt Cardona, and the crowd was kind of split 50-50. And granted, Matt's a very polarizing person, but that moment kind of was like, whoa, am I a good guy here now? Yeah, that being given that opportunity to wrestle, the IWGP champion at the time in front of a crowd that knows and respects me, it was really special. That would be one I would tell everybody to check out. Any of my stuff with Psycho Clown from Mexico, we bring it every time. Um, the only reason I say the Jay White match is ahead of a lot of those ones is because most of the matches in Mexico are 3 versus 3.
Mhm.
So a lot of time, in a 25-minute match, myself and Psycho Clown might have 5 or 6 minutes on the TV screen. So, I think we definitely we've had matches at Warrior Wrestling. We had Galley Lucha Libre in Chicago, Poly Pro in Texas. I wrestled Psycho Clown in probably 8 or 9 states now. And I mean, to me, it's a winning formula every time. Um, I just think that those best matches of us personally are still yet to come because things are still really hot in Mexico between us.
I look forward to seeing what happens next with that. Real quick, I'll mention I believe you wrestled him at the Stadium Series for Warrior once. I look forward to MLW Fightland. Right now, I don't think your opponent's announced. I think it's just you'll be in action. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out, and we'll wait and see. I mean, this weekend's not even here yet, but I'm already looking forward to the next event that we can see you at domestically. But thanks for your time today. It was good catching up, and best of luck going forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's always a good time to be in the ECW arena. The crowd's great. It's going to be a good time. I know what I have in store, and I know it's going to be something to get us started off with a bang in MLW.